The Dallas Mavericks are currently the 7th seed in the Western Conference at the time of recording this video, and they are in the bloodbath of the Western Conference of a bunch of teams that are below 500, but because the West is not nearly as dominant as it used to be, that is somehow a playoff seeding now. But in spite of the fact that you might look at a playoff spot as relatively positive for the Dallas Mavericks, they're one game from the 5 seed at this point. To be honest, seeing this team end up being a mid to lower playoff seed for the 3rd consecutive year with no real discernible difference between this roster and that roster 2 seasons ago, to me is quite depressing. And I think the stagnation of this franchise as a whole has gone uncalled out because of the longer-term security and the longer-term plan of Luka Doncic. If this was a different situation where the player was a little bit older, we'd be calling out these circumstances as flawed. But because you have Luka Doncic in the long term at the helm of that franchise, it makes people less likely to make that call out. However, I personally feel as though not calling this out and not putting proper pressure on the situation now, while the smoke has yet to turn into fire, I think that's the right move. So that's what I hope to do with this video, I guess. I mean, it's not actually gonna change anything, but I'm gonna talk about changing things for quite a bit. So I guess I'm just a politician. I don't know what that is. Get on with the video. Let's talk shit about the Mavericks. Before we continue on with this video, about half of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you've fallen to the 50%, then please subscribe. I am trying to hit 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so your subscription will be much appreciated. By the time you are watching this video, we are coming down to the wire in terms of actually hitting that goal, and at the time of recording this video, we're about 4,000 subscribers short. So if you could hit that subscribe button, if you haven't already, to help me hit that goal before the year ends, that would be much appreciated. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Look forward to seeing that quote in the comment section for the 500th time. So where do we begin here? Essentially, the whole point I'm trying to make in this video, I suppose, is that the long-term implications of Luka Doncic and how he's going to be in Dallas has affected the criticism and the amount that has been levied towards the Mavericks in the short term. And Luka Doncic and his future has taken precedent over the short-term issues. And to be honest, I don't even really think I need to explain that that's the case. I think we would all agree that that is obvious. The Mavericks are very far from hitting the panic button now that Luka Doncic has a 5-year extension. There was a fear of him not actually extending with this team not too long ago, and that's when the panic button was potentially going to be hit. But now that an extension has gone through, a lot more calm things going on with Dallas. But unfortunately, that means that the front office now has a license to be stagnant and not very proactive in its approach to building the roster, which to some extent I believe is, kind of understandable and fair. And you don't want a team to make too many rash decisions. The video that I just recorded was about the Lakers, and talk about rash decisions with no long-term outlook. You don't want to make drastic decisions on a short-term approach, but you also don't want to dilly-dally too long until you can't really make changes when necessary. Don't rush and make a mess that can't be cleaned up, but also don't not create a mess out of fear. This is a shit metaphor. What does it say? But you also don't want them rushing shit. I already said this. This is fucking garbage script. Anyways, I feel as though oftentimes, both in the current NBA and historically, franchises allow the security to let them sit back and relax for a little bit too long. And again, I kind of get it, and it's not even necessarily all that bad of a thing because you're not making rash decisions. But I think this leads to a tendency within franchises for them to sit back and relax and continue to be sitting back and relaxing even after things have actually started to slip, and then at that point, it's too little too late. Let's talk about Luka Doncic. He is someone who, not directly to the camera, is publicly saying these kind of things, but there are constantly articles and reports coming out that suggest that Luka Doncic is pretty vocal when he has a problem with the situation. An article came out very recently about how much Luka hated Rick Carlisle and would constantly call him out in front of the rest of the team. So that kind of explains the mystery as to why Rick left what seemed like the perfect job long term to coach the Indiana Pacers, and instead seemed like more of a mutual decision because him and Luka just was not happening. So you've already displeased him on that end. There was a whole thing with Bob and his impact on the advanced stats stuff and how that was changing the Mavericks and all of that. So that's already not a great situation. Jason Kidd is a bad coach, so that's not a great situation. And there was that report of concerns about him not being willing to sign an extension because he was upset with how some of the moves the franchise had made had panned out. He, of course, did sign that extension. So, phew. How do you say that? Phew. Whatever. This recording is a fucking train wreck. It was fine. It ended up being fine. But I think the fact that that was a genuine fear at the time does go to show that Luka Doncic is not exactly chill with the Mavericks and all that. It's not a perfect relationship. But overall, the feeling that I am getting from this Dallas Mavericks team is that they're off to a pretty sloppy start in terms of how they're building this team around him, and I do not get the impression that this front office is proactive enough to fully recover from this rough start. Now, there is time. There is time. But the thing is, people have said there is time as an excuse to put off actually doing shit, and then it doesn't actually get done, or it gets done very last second. You know how I know this? I'm recording this video at 4 a.m. on Christmas because I have to record all of these videos before having Christmas with my family and then going on vacation right after. I could have recorded these videos like a week ago if I had just planned properly and didn't say, there's time. So here we fucking are. And people, for example, said with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm sure, oh, there's time with LeBron James. I mean, he just signed a rookie extension. There's time. We don't have to make a trade for Amari Stoudemire. We have JJ Hickson in the long term, so we'd rather just have that. Yeah, that's a thing that actually genuinely probably happened. The specifics of who's to blame are a little bit muddied, but that seemed like a big turning point was they wanted JJ Hickson instead of Amari Stoudemire for the long-term thing. So the approach of it's fine, we have time, you'd be surprised how quickly time runs out. It's not necessarily wrong to say that there is time, but do not let that give you a false sense of security. The Dallas Mavericks have not done a bad job thus far building around their generational talent, but they haven't done a good job either. They have just gotten by, and I know it's just a feeling, and facts don't care about your feelings and all of that shit, but I feel as though this is a situation where I can already see it starting to slip through the cracks, where Luka is going to start off his career with the Dallas Mavericks, and a couple of years from now it's going to be like, are we sure he's going to be here long term? And then he leaves and he signs with the Chicago Bulls and leads them to a championship. Wow, suddenly I don't have a problem with this. Seriously though, if I'm the Mavericks, I'm taking a seriously proactive approach to this coming off season, because 3 straight years of the team being essentially the same, I would be really annoyed with that if I was Luka, and I don't think the Mavericks should be accepting that situation either. And Luka has 0 ties to the Dallas Mavericks, unlike LeBron James with that Cavs example, so he's not just going to come back because he has a relation to the city. He has no reason to come back. So get it right the first time. Let's put it that way. I don't know why I felt compelled to talk about this. I don't know. It just feels as though the Mavericks are just allowed to be not great and no one talks about it. I feel like there should be more urgency, more of a sense of urgency with that franchise that just does not exist, and I'm concerned about it in the long term. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.